Chris, some of these days over here, of course, are us giving opinions, us giving thoughts, us giving just our analysis overall. Today is one of the most important news days of the year. The NFL trade deadline at 4:00. And of course, now with the Pittsburgh Steelers, there is quarterback talk going on. A good afternoon, everybody. A good Tuesday afternoon. This is the Southside Beat. Happy Halloween, everybody. We did not come dressed in costume today unless you want sports journalists to be considered our costumes. The trade deadline is in 1 hour's time, 4 p.m. Eastern. It is currently 3 p.m. Eastern as we do this live. There have been a few trades that have come across the wire in the NFL. Nothing related as of right now to the Pittsburgh Steelers, Chris, but that doesn't mean that something can't come out within the next hour or so.
No, of course. Still an hour to go. Obviously we've seen some reports out there saying the Steelers are going to stand pat. Then there are some that are expecting the Steelers to trade, somebody or for somebody. Levi Wallace with the eye emojis on his Instagram a couple hours ago. So does he get traded? Something to kind of monitor. And then, they've been tied to Jalen Johnson, from the Bears. It's interesting. I just want to know how the 49ers keep getting away with this crap because a third-round pick. That's ridiculous. A third-round pick for Chase Young.
Man, that D-line.
They now have Chase Young, Javon Hargrave, and Nick Bosa up front.
And Eric Armstead.
Yeah.
Really good D-tackle.
Yeah.
Man, that line's loaded. This literally just came across the feed. If I keep looking down here, it's because I'm updating the news feed.
I got my computer because I don't want to be looking down the whole time. So I got my computer offset a little bit so I can try to keep up with stuff and monitor your guys' comments. And it's going to be a fun day today for sure.
It's going to be a fun half hour. I mean, we're going to have obviously talk about the Steelers, and Kenny Pickett says he's for sure playing when I asked him what clearances he needed. But this trade just came across the wire. The Browns are trading wide receiver Donovan Peoples-Jones to the Lions. This according to multiple reports.
The Lions.
So the Lions are loading up. They haven't been targeting Jameson Williams that much, but a really nice complementary piece to that offense to go behind Amon-Ra St. Brown. So right now, the major trades that have come across, in addition to the Donovan Peoples-Jones news that just broke, multiple reports on that, the Washington Commanders are unloading their defensive line. Montez Sweat goes to the Chicago Bears for a relatively early pick. I believe it was a second or third rounder. And then Chase Young goes to the 49ers for table scraps. Another big one, of course, former Steeler Josh Dobbs gets sent from Arizona to Minnesota. The Vikings kind of trying to compensate, of course, for Kirk Cousins being down and trying to reboot a run to the playoffs. They're 4-4 right now, and getting Justin Jefferson back and getting Justin Jefferson back could be a huge thing. So those are really the only major ones that have come down the pike as of right now. According to NFL Network, it's a 2025 6th-round pick going to Cleveland for Donovan Peoples-Jones. So a nice pickup there for the Lions. But, Chris, let's go to the Steelers real quick. No trades yet for the Steelers, but with the health of Kenny Pickett, obviously, still up in the air. Both quarterbacks spoke today on the South Side. Kenny Pickett in his usual scrum setting, and then I walked over to Mitch Trubisky and got a one-on-one with him for about a minute or so. But Pickett says, and I quote, "I'm playing for sure." And that was in response to a question I asked him directly of, hey, what clearances do you need? Is it how you feel? Do the doctors have to confirm stuff? What's going on? And he sidestepped it with probably the answer that we all wanted to hear. Now, him saying I'm playing for sure and him playing for sure can still mean two different things.
Yeah. I mean, and if he is healthy enough, come on, where'd it go? Here we go. Let's click on it.
It's right here.
There we go.
There we go.
I clicked on it like 4 times. It wasn't popping up. Obviously, you want Kenny to play. I mean, we talked about it yesterday. I know I was pretty critical of him yesterday, and there are some people, in the comments of my Chalk Talk piece that are Kenny truthers or Kenny apologists that don't want to, see the criticism that's there. However, he still needs to play. I mean, if you're going to find out about Kenny Pickett, he needs to play. You need to see how he plays, not only see how he grows as a quarterback, you need to see how he plays whenever he has certain obstacles in the way, like possibly playing at less than 100%. Maybe that kind of gives him some extra motivation, kind of gives him an extra, boost in his step or whatever, just whatever it is, man. You need to see Kenny Pickett play. And I do believe that Kenny gives the Steelers. I am kind of, and John kind of brings this up here. I have kind of changed my tune a little bit from earlier in the season. I do think that Kenny, I wouldn't say significant, but it gives the Steelers a bit better of a chance to win than as opposed to Mitch Trubisky, just because of that fourth quarter factor. If they're close and Kenny's, has the ability to turn it on. I mean, yeah, I trust Kenny in those situations way more than Mitch. So they need to see Kenny play for sure. And if he's healthy enough to go, he needs to play.
Now, Mitch Trubisky, the backup quarterback coming in relief from the bullpen, is a little bit different than Mitch Trubisky, the quarterback that gets days of preparation. I think that's safe to say for just about any backup quarterback. The last time Mitch Trubisky played in a game that he started was late last year against Carolina. The Steelers, of course, won that game. They got a lot of help from their ground game. They rushed for, I believe it was 146 yards in that game. Now, this Steelers
team was awesome in that game too.
Yes. Now, this Steelers team has obviously not run the football well. So if it has to be Mitch Trubisky on Thursday, the Titans' run defense is kind of middle of the pack in the NFL, but they haven't given up a lot of rushing touchdowns. I think it's only 4 this year. So it's not exactly a team that can be run on if it has to be Trubisky and the game plan has to be adjusted to run the football more. Now, in addition to, this was a busy day on the South Side, in addition to all the trade deadline stuff, because Matt Canada and Terrell Austin both spoke today, coordinator Tuesday, and then after practice, Kenny Pickett spoke, and I got Mitch Trubisky one-on-one. And the video for Trubisky is currently live on DKPittsburghSports.com, right on this YouTube channel. You can click over to that after the show. Mitch talked about, his preparation, the difference between preparing to start throughout the week versus coming in cold, essentially off the bench. So you can check that out. Yeah. But the difference between Kenny Pickett being on the field and not is obviously a huge one, regardless. Yeah. And no one's ever going to question Kenny's toughness. No one's ever going to question Kenny's fight, so to speak, and his willingness to be out on the field. But the brass tacks is he has to be able to throw the football. And today he said he did some light throwing, walk-through style stuff today. So really not much torque, I guess you could say, putting on the ball. I guess you could say that he's not exactly, chucking it downfield to George Pickens just yet, but he is at least working as of today. Yeah. So the Steelers are going to have a closed practice tomorrow. This is how this is going to work. There's a closed practice tomorrow, probably another walkthrough. And then the assumption is that tomorrow's injury report will reveal whether Kenny is truly out or not. And if he doesn't have an out designation, then we'll have to see Thursday, pregame warmups, testing, all of that, and go from there.
Yeah. Teresa says, wait, hold on.
Jeez. Go for it.
Teresa says, so we spent a first-round pick on a slightly better chance to win over Money Mitch. Seriously? That's just where I am right now. I mean, you obviously take a quarterback in the first round because you are investing in what he can be. And I do think that Kenny can be better than what he is right now. Absolutely. I think he's very, very capable of it. He has the tools to do it. We just haven't seen the consistent growth just yet. Now, we can pin that on whatever you want to. You can pin it on, hey, same old issues that we saw on college tape. Happy feet in the pocket, leaving the pocket too quickly, isn't getting through his progressions fast enough. You can hit on those things. You could also say, hey, Kenny can only grow so much in this kind of terrible, outdated offense. Okay, that's fair. I mean, it could be a number of different things. I'm just going off of what I'm seeing right now. Monongahela Mike kind of pretty much says it. There's just no consistency right now. Sure. The only time that Kenny's really consistent is in the fourth quarter. I would even extend that to say the second half, because he's been pretty good in the third quarter this year too. But I just we haven't seen it yet. Now he's played for more than a season's worth of games. Just haven't seen it yet. And I not saying he can't. I'm like I said yesterday, I still believe in the 3-year rule. I believe in giving him the time that he needs to develop. And some quarterbacks develop at different paces than others. Not everybody's going to come in and be Pat Mahomes. Not everybody's going to come in and be Ben Roethlisberger, go 13-0 as a rookie. It's just not going to happen.
Brent, I never thought that either Mason Rudolph or Mitch Trubisky would have been traded today. Brent here brings up a potential trade to the Vikings. Of course, the Vikings go get Josh Dobbs today from Arizona. I didn't think that was ever going to be a possibility. That first off, Mitch Trubisky's contract is too expensive for a backup quarterback, and it would be a little bit costly for Minnesota because they do want to re-sign Kirk Cousins, or if they want to re-sign Kirk Cousins. Number two, now with Kenny being banged up, it makes Mason Rudolph a little more valuable to that locker room. So I didn't think a quarterback was going to be in the cards, at least as far as what the Steelers were going to deal today. And Ryan mentions Kenny says he's playing. Yes, in case you missed it. That's, we've been talking about Kenny says he's playing. Mitch is prepared to start just in case. Matt Canada is kind of preparing for 2 quarterbacks at the same time. So it's a bit of a tricky situation going into this Thursday night game. All the Thursday night games are tricky in and of themselves, but having your starting quarterback injured and missing the second half, and then going in to play a game 3 days later or 4 days later, I guess, is no easy task for anybody. Now, Chris, you mentioned earlier about the argument for Mitch versus Kenny, who's better now. And there was a point earlier in the season where Kenny was not playing well, and we said, well, Mitch and Kenny is kind of marginal. Mm-hmm. And I'm not sure right now if we could say that specifically and carbon copy that comment from then until now, because I think it's become more clear that Kenny's being held back by his offensive coordinator, as we talked about yesterday. But now the focus goes to, can this offense function with Mitch Trubisky at quarterback? And can it sustain on Thursday against the Titans if Mitch has to play? Keep in mind, this will be the first time Mitch actually gets preparation time as the starter, and I put that in air quotes, for the first time since late last season. So it's not like Mitch hasn't been playing. He's had to come off the bench. But I think it's a little bit different that Mitch would have to come in off the bench versus having to come in and have actual prep time to start.
Yep. There's one really good thing I want to kind of bring up here. Managa Hale Mike says KP ain't missing the hot read too much. So there's one thing that I really try to not do whenever I'm like looking at the tape, looking at the film, and trying to break down at least what I'm seeing. I'm not going to pretend that I'm in the room and know exactly what's going on with each and every single play. I'm not qualified to do that. I have never played the game at the NFL level. I have never sat in one of those rooms during a meeting. I'm horribly unqualified when it comes to that kind of stuff. However, I based off of some of the concepts that are called, I don't think that there are many hot reads built into, or that there are hot routes necessarily built into the offense, that any kind of checks or anything like that are parts of the plays, much like we saw with the George Pickens touchdown against the Ravens. That was a designed check based off of what the defense is going to give. Now, there are certain plays that I've seen this year where I would think, based off of the blitz that's coming, that there would be a hot route there, that the receiver would break off of whatever he's doing and fill the voided space from the blitz, and it just doesn't happen. Now, if it's missed once or twice, you kind of put that on mental error, right? You kind of just put that on, okay, the receiver didn't read the hot route, didn't read the blitz and didn't go for the hot route. It happens so frequently that I'm just starting to think that this offense doesn't have the ability for hot routes. That just based off of what I'm seeing on film. I'm not going to pretend that I'm in the room and saying that they don't have them. I'm just saying, based off of what I'm seeing on film, if it happens so frequently, and that's part of the offense. If that is the case, that's an issue. You got to have the ability to call things on the fly based off of what the defense is showing.
Couple of notes on the defensive side of the ball, too. Of course, Terrell Austin talked today as well, and we are monitoring the trade wire with about 45 minutes to go. We got the wires going, believe me.
I've got this on, man.
We got the wires going. With about 45 minutes until the trade deadline, nothing on the Steelers front quite yet. But Terrell Austin did talk today. Of course, the coordinator Thursday getting moved up to coordinator Tuesday. And the big thing to draw from Terrell Austin is it's Joey's time. We made it. We hit the ground. We found the destination. It's not about the journey. It's about the destination. In this case, Joey Porter Jr. is the starting cornerback moving forward for the Pittsburgh Steelers. It is about damn time. A quote from Terrell Austin, and I quote, "He's growing. He's getting better. And when his time comes, you'll know it. I think it was his time." And then he continues later on, "We feel comfortable now that he's able to handle everything. That's why he's the guy moving forward."
Yeah. I mean, it's good news for the Steelers. It's good news for Joey Porter Jr., but it's obviously really good news for the Steelers. The fact that they like took their time with him to make sure that, like, hey, we're not just going to throw you out there and be like, okay, figure it out. Especially, because I believe he was dealing with some kind of injuries or some kind of injury during training camp or preseason, and kind of slowed him down a little bit. So you don't want to just throw him out there and be like, all right, good luck, kid. Definitely want to see the progression there. Oh, okay, he did really well with this sample size. Let's increase it. Oh, pass the test again. Okay, great. He just kept checking boxes, and they kept giving him more and more and more. And that's kind of what maybe the Steelers should do more often with their rookies, other than just say, here you go. Unless it's like a generational, I want to say generational, that word is overused, but like a really, really high quality, like top 5 pick that's like an automatic, like, all right, you're a starter day one. I don't necessarily think that Joey Porter Jr. was that, because if he was, he probably would have been drafted in the first round by somebody.
Sure. Yes, Kenny says he's playing for sure, as Teresa says. We'll reiterate that news bit. Another big thing from Terrell Austin today, and of course replacing Minkah Fitzpatrick, is no easy task for any team that would be missing a guy like a Minkah Fitzpatrick. And the big part that Minkah does, he does just about everything for this defense. But the big thing that he does is he is a master at communication in the back end of the secondary. And I think that was pretty sorely missed as the game went on Sunday, namely in evidence by the Travis Etienne, 53-yard touchdown or 57-yard touchdown pass from Trevor Lawrence that just kind of went right over the top of the secondary. That's the lid of the defense, so to speak, that cliche. That is the straw that stirs the drink for me. And in moment when Minkah got hurt, I said, this is the guy they can't afford to lose today. And some of the comments in the asylum, of course, go, what about TJ? And I go, TJ is TJ, but Minkah does everything for the Steelers defense. And his impact was missed on Sunday. So, of course, a lot of talk from Terrell Austin today is about having to kind of usher in new communication lines. Who's going to take over that back end for Minkah? And it's going to be a little bit of a committee approach, Terrell Austin said. Of course, DeMonte KZ and Keanu Neal back there, but you're probably going to see some Elijah Riley. You're probably going to see some Miles Killebrew, who, of course, is the Steelers special teams captain. It's going to be a team effort to try to replace him. However, that's a guy that's really hard to replace. A quick note before you go, Chris. Brent asks, have you heard anything about Cam or Pat Freiermuth? Cam Hayward's 21-day window to be designated off of IR was open last week. So Cam is eligible to return from injured reserve, and he is practicing. Pat Freiermuth still has 3 weeks left on injured reserve. Mm-hmm. So you're not going to see Pat Freiermuth until at least mid to end of November.
Yeah, you got at least 3 more games where you won't see him. Let's see. Yeah, I mean, the issue. So from what I can remember, what KZ or Porter said about the big play to Etienne is that they were trying to disguise cover 2, and that was actually man. So that would have been, and Porter admitted it, that would have been on Porter. He's got to stay. He's got to make that play. He's got to stay with the running back. He said he didn't expect a running back to do that. Well, guess what? Not every running back at the NFL level is the way they were in college. You got to stick with them. So those are mistakes that are going to happen. I mean, Joey Porter Jr. is a rookie. I mean, he's going to make mistakes. It happens. He's been really good so far. He also had a really, really great open field tackle that's probably saved a touchdown. On Calvin Ridley.
Mm-hmm.
So he still had good moments in that game. Just one mistake cost him a touchdown. But Minkah, Matt Williamson did a great job on this week's War Room talking about what Minkah does, and the best way he put it was he puts out a lot of fires in that defense, and he does. And there's not one guy that can do what Minkah does. It has to be a committee approach to replacing Minkah, and that's the unfortunate part of it, is that they have to use multiple guys to try to make up for what one guy does whenever he's on the field, and that limits and handcuffs the defense really on all three levels, because Minkah will line up in the deep safety position sometimes. He'll line up in the slot sometimes. He'll line up in the box. He's even got a few snaps lining up on the outside. I mean, he literally plays all over the defense. That's just I agree. Like when you're talking about one player that can't be missing from this defense, you might say TJ just because of what the Steelers do when TJ's on the field versus what they fail to do when he's not on the field.
Yes,
but Minkah does, like as Matt said, he does put out a lot of fires, and he does it in a number of different ways. It's a significant loss without Minkah for sure.
So with about 8 minutes left in the show and about 40 minutes until the trade deadline for the NFL hits at 4 p.m. Eastern, I figured, Chris, we could do a little game here of buy or sell, because, I mean, think about this, okay? The Steelers in the position that they're in, they're 4-3, coming off of a loss to one of the best teams in the AFC. I thought Sunday's game was going to be a really good litmus test for where the Steelers truly stand in the AFC, because for my money right now, Jacksonville's the number 3 team in the AFC, behind Kansas City and Miami. I think they're the third best team in the AFC right now. My thought process is this, okay? Using that game as a litmus test to see where the Steelers are at in the AFC will lead into today, aka the trade deadline. Now, do you think the Steelers should be buyers or the Steelers should be sellers in order to try to gain some more capital moving forward?
I think they need to add. I mean, you're 4-3. The season is not over yet. The quest for the division is not over yet. The Steelers still have 4 division games left. I believe. I can't go through the schedule in my head right now, but no, they've got to buy. And Brent says always buy. I mean, now it depends. It does depend on who you're going after. But yeah, I would buy, because even in a season that seemed doomed for failure. I mean, they did a very buyer move whenever they traded for Minkah Fitzpatrick.
Yes, they did.
In a season where they weren't going anywhere. Once Ben's arm was gone, it ain't happening. You're not winning with Mason Rudolph and Duck Hodges. You're just not. And some people are like, saying, okay, sell. The team can't do anything. They need to try to, go let's punt on the season. But listen, that's not the Steelers' way. They're not going to do it. They're not going to try to sell. They're definitely not going to try to tank or lose games. And I think that is that's probably the worst thing you could do in terms, because I know that a lot of people think, tanking is the way to go because you get high draft picks. Listen, the Steelers have hit on draft picks without having to sell for a long time. And this goes back to Mike Tomlin's earlier days. This goes back to Bill Cowher's days. They have, I can't remember a time in my, at least not in my lifetime, where the Steelers have intentionally tried to tank for high draft picks. just doesn't happen. It's not part of the culture, and
it's not what they do.
It's just not what they do. And success over time, they've been a very successful franchise. It's just, I mean, they can. I mean, yeah, yeah. And the thing is, and James says it here, players won't tank. They don't need to be playing in a culture that's okay with tanking. Period. I mean,
Right.
it's you got some young players on this team, like some young players that you want to be part of the future. And if Mike Tomlin walks in the room one day and says, "All right, well, we got our eyes on 2024 now," they're gonna be like,
"What?
All of a sudden you don't believe in us? Like, what the heck?" It's Mike Tomlin's job and the coaching staff's job to try to, coach them up and try to win football games now. Not to be like, okay, well, we got our eyes on next season now. That's bull crap. I would never want to. If I were a player, I would never want to play for an organization that's okay with that.
I think there's a case to be made that the Steelers should sell over buying. And I'm not saying that's what I think they should do, because truth be told, I think they should stand pat. The reason why I think they should stand pat is because this is kind of a team in purgatory right now, in my opinion. This is a team that clearly does not have a Super Bowl contending offense, or even dialing it back, an AFC North or an AFC contending offense. Because it's true. The pieces aren't there. The coordinator definitely isn't there. And the pieces they tried to get in free agency and through the draft have underperformed. Najee Harris has had a really good rookie year and has been pedestrian since. Kenny Pickett has, he's got the fourth quarter magic. He does really well late in games, and he's got guts and moxie and all that other stuff. But he can't put it together in a lot of cases throughout 3 quarters of football. So, yeah, like we talked about yesterday, you could start to see some of the signs that maybe Najee isn't the first-round pick that we thought he should have been, or maybe Kenny isn't the quarterback. Now, if you want to give Kenny more time, then that's for you. That's your prerogative. I'm not sure what the Steelers are wanting to do. Obviously, they're going to try to give Kenny as much time as they possibly can. But how long do you let that leash run before you pull it back? Now, there's the case for the Steelers to go add to try to contend this year and potentially next year, whoever it may be, if there's additional contract room or if extensions happen, whatever it needs to be. There's also the case to say, go get some more capital, because maybe this running back isn't the first-round running back you drafted. Maybe this quarterback is starting to not be the first-round quarterback that you drafted. Maybe this offensive line does need more help. Maybe this wide receiver core needs more help. And maybe the Steelers need a new tight end. There's cases, I think, on both sides of the fence for the Steelers. Personally, I would stay pat if I'm the Steelers. I don't see any purpose in giving up more capital to replace one hole that is likely going to be on the defense, where they have already spent a boatload of money. I think they need to add more capital instead of removing it, if not standing pat. But that's just me. That's how I would do it. I think they have requisite pieces on offense that are underperforming. I think the coordinator still needs to go before you can really make the final judgment on Kenny Pickett, Najee Harris, etc. But what we can say right now is, even though the coordinator has not done well, neither have the players in executing those kind of plays.
Yeah, I think if Jalen Johnson is available at the right price, and the Steelers are going to have they're going to have competition, because once a player makes it known, and I want to say a player makes it known, I mean their agent makes it known, we've requested a trade, leverage for the team that he's on goes way down in terms of what they can get back. Because teams now know, hey, he doesn't want to be there. And so I think if you can try to get him at the right price, I wouldn't give up a first or second round pick. I think if you can get him for a third round pick, or maybe a third, and then maybe like a fifth or sixth in future seasons, I'd do that. I mean, if you have a third, you're essentially turning a third round pick and a sixth round pick or a fifth round pick in a future year into a cornerback, where you're looking at 2 starting cornerbacks of Joey Porter Jr. and Jalen Johnson. You can extend him a little, and for a deal that's probably a little bit more team friendly at this point. So, yeah, I think it's something that the Steelers should look at. I'm not saying that they need to go balls to the wall and try to absolutely like no matter what, we're walking away with them here in 30 minutes. I don't think it needs to be that. I don't think they need to be aggressive buyers, but I think that they need to be shrewd buyers. That's probably the best way to put it.
Chip away a little bit, chip
see what's there,
what you need.
See what's there, but don't go outside of your comfort zone of what you're willing to offer for certain players. That's what I would do.
Right. AJ asks, any quick must-know information for someone in town for the Titans game? I think the only generality that I can give to anybody that would travel to any city for the first time or just going, somewhere different, I would try local fare over the usual fast food chain. Like as far as food goes, like try to get the local flavors. I'm a big proponent of the Strip District. I like a lot of food places over there. Obviously, if you want to hit Permanente Brothers on the Strip District, that's your prerogative, or wherever you may be.
If you're gonna go to Permanente's, that's the one to go to.
Right. I'm not sure where you're staying, AJ, but if you can walk the city, walk it. Obviously, if you're staying outside of the city somewhere, somewhere towards the airport, take your time driving in. If you're coming in for game day, arrive early. Believe me. It'll save you a lot of hassle with parking. It'll save you a lot of hassle with walking to the stadium. It'll just save you a ton of time. Case in point for me was Notre Dame. I parked at Notre Dame at 11 a.m., 4 hours before kickoff. Now, this might be a little too early for you, but for me, who has to be there hours before kickoff, I got there even earlier, and I avoided all the traffic. I avoided all the, the vests, if you will, trying to guide me to park in the wrong spot. AJ, thanks for the gifted. We appreciate that. 5 gifted. If you got one from AJ, please say thank you. Try to arrive early and really take in the sights, really take in the scenes, experience as much as you want to experience downtown. I think downtown's a phenomenal place to be, especially on game day. Definitely check out the shop. DK and Dolly will be open throughout Thursday. So safe travels in, AJ.
Wait, hold on. We have something from Ian Rappaport. Hold on.
Hit it. What do we got? A little trade?
Nope. After a day of exploration, Jalen Johnson is expected to stay in Chicago, according to sources. So
there you go.
Look like that's going to happen.
There you go. So as of right now, the Steelers have not made a move on the trade deadline. So as of right now, with about 30-ish minutes to go until 4 p.m., nothing on the Steelers front as far as trades go. With the trade deadline approaching at 4 p.m., Chris and I will be back tomorrow. It's an off day. Well, not really an off day for the Steelers. They'll be practicing, but it's closed to media tomorrow. So Chris and I will be back 3 p.m. to really preview the Titans. We'll get into...
Rap Sheet just tweeted that one too.
Rasul Douglas to the Bills. So Buffalo adds via the trade deadline.
Yep.
So tomorrow we will break down the matchup. We'll give picks. We'll talk about the Titans. It sounds like Will Levis is playing quarterback. So a lot to get into.
Well, we can get picks on Thursday, I think. We can get picks on Thursday.
Yeah, Thursday. We could do that Thursday for sure. But we'll definitely get into the matchup tomorrow. So he's Chris. I'm Corey. Of course, this has been the Southside Beat. We're going back to work. Peace out, everybody.